Today, I'm taking you from Bucharest to Brasov on a Regio Calatori train, and this one comes with a bit of French flair. We'll be arriving behind the former SNCF BB25500 locomotive, hauling a set of Rio regional cars that once ran in France. They're decades past their prime, but still going strong here in Romania. Let's see how they hold up on this scenic run through the Carpathians. Come along! Hi and welcome to Bucharest and to the station of Bucuresti Nord or București Nord in Romanian. It's the city's main station and the largest in Romania. The station was unveiled in 1872, had a major modernization in 1999 and is listed among Romania's historical monuments. Inside, the station is quite open and airy, with a waiting room. Ticket offices in their own reserved hall. Shops. Several eateries. A supermarket. And even a very popular McDonald's. The station is accessible by bus and trolleybus, trams, and metro lines M1 and M4. But the real center of life here at Bucuresti Nord is the concourse in front of the departure boards. This is where most people gather, staring up to find their truck and waiting for their platform to be announced. I must hurry though, as my train is arriving now on track 2, coming all the way from Constanta. Up front is a former SNCF Class BB25500 that found a second life in Romania after retirement in France, hauling a Rio consist, also ex-SNCF. So, today we're traveling in Romanian rails with a certain French flair. Similarly to this train where we'll be traveling today, Regio Calatori's fleet is all former SNCF, bought second-hand for use here in Romania. Time to board and hope that the inside looks better than the outside. And indeed it does, with no pestering graffiti and reasonably clean. It's time to depart now though and make our way through the depot. I'll let you enjoy that quietly. And as usual upon departure, here's today's trip map. Our first stop is Chitila, a small railway town just outside Bucharest that's far more important to the rail network than it looks. This is where the lines to Craiova and ultimately Timișoara branch off, and the junction here has been busy for over a century. While it already existed before the 19th century, Chitila has been a small town for most of its existence. With the arrival of the railway in the 19th century, it transformed from a small village into a commuter town. Today, it's a suburban city, feeding trains in and out of the capital. It's not a place that most travelers stop to visit, but it's the first and last stop for many trains in and out of Bucharest. And speaking of passing through, here's something curious about today's train. The doors no longer close automatically. Instead, they just stay open after each stop. Passengers have to slide them shut manually. if they feel like it, of course. For those used to trains in France, Germany, Sweden and similar countries, this feels as a little different, with a more hands-on charm and occasionally a draft. While we relax on this train, with the scenery passing and the trip evolving, it's a good moment to talk about Regio Calatori. In plain terms, Regio Calatori is today Romania's largest private rail passenger operator. A Brasov-based company running more than 200 services a day, with a fleet of over 100 rail vehicles serving several regional routes in the country. They market themselves as the biggest private alternative to CFR Calatori, focusing in regional connectivity across the country. A short historical note, because the name may be a little bit confusing. You'll often hear Regio Calatori discussed alongside the older Regiotrans story. Regiotrans was the earlier private operator that grew rapidly in the early 2000s but got caught up in subsidy and legal controversies around 2014-2015. That episode involved high-profile arrests and the death of a major shareholder. Regio Calatori today operates in the same space, regional commercially run services, but as a distinct legal entity in the post-Regiotrans debacle landscape. What's their business model? Pragmatic and practical. Regio Calatori typically acquires second-hand rolling stock from France, refurbishes what's needed, and runs regular services. That's why you find the wholly former SNCF fleet under the Regio Calatori banner. The model keeps costs competitive and allows private operators to offer frequent regional services without the capital expense of brand new fleets, though the trade-off can be a variable passenger experience depending on the age and refurbishment level of each unit. So why does it all matter? Because Regio Calatori plays a useful role. They keep regional routes alive, often at lower fares than CFR, and they reuse solid second-hand rolling stock so that trains keep running where demand exists. The downside is the usual old rolling stock trade-off. Service levels can vary, and long-term fleet investment depends on commercial returns, which are not very high. But for many travelers in Romania, private operators like Regio Calatori have expanded choice, lowered ticket prices, and helped keep connections that might otherwise be underserved. For the purposes of this trip, the important bit is simple. We're riding with a major private operator that mixes second-hand European rolling stock with Romanian roots. And that's why our train today has this distinctive French look 1500 kilometers far from the nearest French town. And with these little tidbits about Regio Calatori, we reach Ploiesti Vest, where a prolonged stop waits us. This city is the industrial heart of Prahova County, long linked to Romania's oil industry and an important regional rail junction. But the reason we pause here for a little over 20 minutes isn't the city, it's the train. At Ploiesti Vest, the locomotive changes hands. From Bucharest to here, it's been pushing the train, and now it'll move to the front to pull us toward Brașov. Does anyone know why push-pull operations apparently stops here? Is it any operational restriction or something else? If you know, please drop a comment telling us all the reason. I'd love to hear the explanation. Once everything is wrapped up, we roll out of Ploiesti Vest about 13 minutes late, but that's perfectly fine. From here on, we begin climbing into the Southern Carpathians, and before we reach the really beautiful scenery up ahead, let me give you today's seat tour. These are very simple regional seats. a small folding table, very handy power sockets, and manually opening windows, always a plus on older rolling stock. There's overhead luggage space as well. I've actually been spending most of the trip out in the platform area, which has its own folding seats, a small bin, and even a timetable board. A perfectly functional little corner to enjoy the ride. Given that the train is quite full, I'm not able to offer you now the usual train tour, but I didn't forget it. It will come later in the video. For now, we have the stop in Câmpina, a cozy town at the edge of the Prahova Valley, known for its historic oil industry heritage and pretty hills all around. We are already climbing into the Southern Carpathians, and it's the perfect time to tell you about today's consist. Up front, we have a former SNCF Class BB25500, which we've already seen in Bucharest and Ploiesti Vest. These locomotives were delivered new by Alstom between 1964 and 1971 for mixed traffic duties. Thanks to their dual voltage capability, 1500 volt direct current and 25 kV 50 Hz alternating current, they allowed SNCF to operate seamlessly across the northern and southern networks of France and around Paris, where both systems coexist. They began retiring in 2006, with the last ones leaving active service in 2021. After a long career hauling freight, regional and commuter trains. 10 locomotives made their way to Regio Calatori and 9 are still operational today. As for the cars, these are Rio coaches, rame inox omnibus in French, stainless steel omnibus units that were a familiar sight all over France from the early 1960s through the early 21st century. Here in Romania, they're getting a second life, and honestly, they are an okay fit for this route. And since I've already yapped quite a lot in this video, I'll let you enjoy the beautiful scenery of the Carpathians quietly for a moment. I'll be back just before our arrival in Brașov. And here we are arriving in Brașov, one of Romania's most beautiful cities, right in the heart of Transylvania. Surrounded by the Southern Carpathians, it's a place of medieval walls, Saxon architecture and fairy tale scenery, the kind of landscape that helped inspire the legends of Dracula. Whether you're here for history or for mystery, Brașov has plenty of both. And now a brief train tour as I make my way off the train. Perfect also for sharing my impressions of the trip. Overall, this was an okay journey. Nothing extraordinary other than the scenery, nothing to call home about, but it did exactly what it needed to do. Take me from Bucharest to Brașov quickly and efficiently. We left with a 2-minute delay and arrived with a 2-minute delay, so that's fine by me. Thanks for riding with me on today's journey all the way to the end. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share and drop a comment below. It really helps the channel grow and keeps these rail adventures rolling, always with a bit of history and technology. Thanks for coming along, and I'll see you next week.